helpful information, because this distinction between those two is like, okay, I'm seeing all these people like and save it on Zillow, but if I'm also seeing a bunch of people see it, like it, click through it, watch 30 seconds of this video, and yet I'm not getting any showings, that's a very high indicator that we are out of alignment with pricing and what these buyers are looking for that particular property in the market.
Yeah, Welcome to the Growth Drivers Podcast, the show where we break down the leadership frameworks, mindset shifts, and strategies that fuel entrepreneurial success, personal transformation, and business breakthroughs.
I'm Rachael Novak.
And I'm Mike Novak.
Let's dive in and start driving your growth.
Okay, Mike and Rachael Novak back at it today with you. And today we're talking about the 5 systems you need to have in place for your active listing processes, right?
That's right.
And so when I think about this, we're in conversation through our network at Real Brokerage and through coaching that agents are frustrated, and I think their sellers are frustrated as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. We're in the thick of a very shifting and shifted market where listings are sitting for much longer.
Some listings are.
Yeah, exactly. Some listings are just sitting for much longer than anticipated, and that they foresaw, when they first listed it. So.
Right. And obviously, we're seeing a ton of canceled listings in our market, which is further evidence that there's definitely a misalignment of expectations between what a seller is expecting is going to happen, what actually happens. And as agents, oftentimes you're kind of caught in the middle,
right?
Trying to explain this, trying to interpret it yourself, and also keep your client calm. So our goal today is to give you some systems that have worked really well for us, that might bring some calm to the chaos, and that might also help you set better expectations with your seller up front, and then manage those expectations in an effective way once the listing is active in the market. Because right now, at least in our market, the average days in the market are closing on a 30. Okay, and so it's not the market where you can just list it and offers just start pouring in. You need to have a process and system in place to hold on to this listing for a period of time and manage the listing actively.
I would also like to add that it's not the market to test the market, right? A lot of sellers will be like, well, let's just toss it on for 30 days, test to see if it'll sell. This is not the market for that, at least in our area, in our metro area, the Seattle area, because we're seeing at least 30 days average on market. New construction, we're seeing significantly longer. We're seeing 4 and 5 months of inventory. This is not the market to test. So, we'll talk a little bit probably about how to discern what listings to take and how to have that conversation before. But for now, let's go through these 5 systems that you need to have in place in order to maintain that active listing, and keep your sellers informed as to what's going on in the marketplace.
Right. And a reminder, we did a podcast a few weeks back about how to price your listings. So if you feel like you don't know how to price things right now, maybe go take a listen on that. It could get some wheels turning for you. But number 1, you need a showing feedback system. So why is this important?
Well, this is important because the feedback cycle needs to be as short as possible and as clear as possible to the sellers, so that all of the feedback isn't just coming from you. You need to be able to get at least a little bit of feedback from the buyers in the market, the buyers' agents who are out with those buyers in the marketplace, to be able to report back to the seller how the market is interpreting and how the market is receiving their listing.
Right. So most people have showing time set up, which automatically surveys buyer agents. We always like to make sure the seller is set up as a CC to the responses on those, because that way they can see it raw and unfiltered. Our job is not to cushion the feedback we're getting. It's to share it very honestly and candidly with sellers. Whether they want to hear it or not, it's important they see it. So that's one way we collect feedback. Some other ways we collect feedback, we send a pre-showing text message to the buyer's agent before they show the listing with 5 bullet points that makes it easy for them to show and sell the house. Okay, five things we don't want them to miss showing the home.
So an easy way to build this, just for efficiency's sake, is take the marketing remarks, take the listing, take any of the marketing tidbits that your seller may have given you to include, put them into ChatGPT and say, hey, give me 5 succinct bullet points as to what great features of this particular property, and then create a template in your text messages that you can easily just send as soon as a showing request comes through.
Right. And so you send this text before the showing happens, and this establishes communication with the buyer agent before they do anything. And so they typically will respond with something like "thank you" or "awesome." And so they're really thankful and grateful for you reaching out and giving them this kind of snapshot of information. And if you think about if you went to go be a buyer agent on a showing, it just makes their job very easy.
I was gonna say, how is that helpful?
Make sure that I point out to my buyer.
Yeah, exactly. You're our job as listing agents isn't just to market the property, but it is to help and give tools to buyers agents in order for them to sell their client on this home as well.
Make it very easy for them to sell it.
Exactly.
So, but the next thing that does is when we then reach out for showing feedback, then they tend to respond. I hear a lot of agents say, well, no one ever responds to my feedback requests, but very few people are actually reaching out preemptively. And so if you do this, you're going to see your response rate go through the roof. Mine is north of 75%.
Right.
Some people respond on calls, texts, or the automated survey 75% of the time.
Exactly. And
which is huge for the sellers.
Well, it is huge. And prior to us doing this, if we were just relying on the showing time feedback, number one, agents, I would say less than 25% of the time, they would fill out that showing time feedback. And even if it was filled out, that that five questions in there, it was not detailed whatsoever. There was no reason as to why they didn't like it. It was just not great, or they loved it, but why? So right. It creates a little bit more detail that you're able to give to your clients.
Yep. And so I like to send feedback once per week to my sellers. I don't provide it right after the showing or right after I receive it, because that creates disorder and chaos. Try doing that with 10 active listings. You're going to be a train wreck. You're never going to keep up. You're going to miss sending some of them along. It's just, that's not a system, right? That's really just running around haphazardly. So a better system is collect the feedback, have your system put it on a spreadsheet, have it sent out once per week to your seller, and then that becomes the basis of conversation. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you need to set that expectation up front, though, because if you don't, your seller's going to ask you, what do they think of the house? What do they think of the house? What do they think of the house? So I literally have our list coordinator send out a text as soon as we go live on the market saying, I'll be sending you the feedback report once per week. And I've usually talked to them 3 or 4 times in person before they get that text as well. But we're just revisiting it one last time as we go live.
Yep, exactly right.
So I don't know about you, but I'm not going to go relay feedback at 8 p.m. on a Monday night. Just not gonna
well, and let's be perfectly...
It's not time sensitive whatsoever.
Let's be perfectly honest. If the buyers are hot to trot, if they're super excited, then you're going to either get a call or text, hopefully, from the buyer's agent in regards to potential offer terms. So if that's the case, then okay, we'll circle back with the seller as soon as we actually have an offer in hand, if it's sooner than when the feedback would be received. But otherwise, the feedback can wait for whenever that is during the week that you provide it.
Yeah, if there's an offer on the table, I'm jumping all over it.
Exactly.
So number 2 is a market report for your seller on the marketing. I'm not talking about the actual comps. I'm talking about the marketing that you're actually doing for them. So whatever you promised them that you would do to market their house, it's important you have a way to show them that you're actually doing it and to kind of pull back the curtain and give them that data. So I like to provide this every 1 to 2 weeks to our sellers. And our marketing plan is very digital focused. So it shows them things like YouTube views, website visits to their single property site, time on the website,
click-through rates.
All of those types of things. So they can see hey, we're out really offensively marketing their property. We're not just sitting back waiting for an offer to come in or for, putting in the MLS and hoping that a buyer agent shows it. So.
Well, this shows that, to your sellers, when you're able to back up with data what you have been actively and proactively doing to market their property, as opposed to just putting it in the MLS and saying a prayer, is it shows that there's other views, there's other platforms than just the Zillow dashboard or the Redfin dashboard that they are also able to see. So on that weekly marketing report, so the marketing that we're doing, yes, we're including the views that we can see that, and the saves on Zillow and on Realtor.com and on Redfin. Those are the basic things. We take ours a little step further. I think we've talked about some of these before on the podcast where, we have a single property site for that particular property. We are pushing it out through Google and targeting people. We're pushing it out through Meta, but that's Facebook and Instagram, and also on YouTube. And so we're able to have some analytics in regards to what Michael was saying, the views, the clicks, the impressions, how many people are looking at it, how many people are watching it, how long are they watching that video for, and that's really helpful information, because the distinction between those two is like, okay, I'm seeing all these people like and save it on Zillow, but if I'm also seeing a bunch of people see it, like it, click through it, watch 30 seconds of this video, and yet I'm not getting any showings, that's a very high indicator that we are out of alignment with pricing and what these buyers are looking for that particular property in the market.
Yeah, they're seeing it online, they're rejecting the price,
right,
or what they're seeing, and it's keeping them from coming out in person.
Exactly.
So, number 3 is the updated comp analysis process. So what does this look like for you, Rachel?
So every single week, you need to have kind of a basis criteria for the comps that you're pulling. So when you do the original CMA, when you go on the listing appointment, there's a particular criteria that you provide for the comps that you pull. That exact criteria needs to be carried through all the way to when you're under contract on this listing. So you're doing it at a listing appointment. You're doing it again during the pre-listing process if you're connecting on comps and if the market is shifting. You're doing it again, of course, right before you go live so that you can actually justify price and decide on price with the sellers. Now, every single week, you want to be pulling that same exact criteria in a market analysis, showing what's actively happening in the market. So they are able to watch their competition either stay active on the market, which is, if they're still active, if their competition is lowering their prices, if their competition is going under contract, their competition is selling and what it's selling for. So it provides them a real-time, every single week comparison as to how they are stacking up in the marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, the market is really dynamic, obviously. It changes week to week. And so it's important that they don't see a market analysis once,
right,
and that's it on their house. Like, it needs to be a continuous feed of information, because the information tells a story.
Exactly.
Right? Like, you can, tell them everything until you're blue in the face, but if they can see the data and they can see what they're up against, it helps them come to their own conclusions as well.
And that's what I was going to say, like at some point, your voice and your opinion almost becomes noise to them. Like every single week you could call them and say, yeah, the market's really tough and nothing's really going under contract, and I saw this other house. Like, you can be telling them these things and they will still feel like you're not doing enough, or they're frustrated with you because you're the easiest target, right, in the market. Whereas if you can be pulling the actual data, they are looking at the data, they are seeing the other homes on the marketplace, it takes all of that like pressure of selling off of you and into what is happening in the marketplace, because the market is what determines the ultimate selling price.
100%. Number 4, the system of framing expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like, again, about kind of before you even get into the issue of the home being on the market for a while, what kind of mindset have you developed in the seller ahead of time? Okay. And so this is hard to do if you've got listings that are just sitting there right now. Like, you could go back and have this conversation for sure, and you probably should. But it's better to have this conversation up front before you go onto the market. So I'll always tell sellers, like, hey, this is the price I think we should come on the market. But it's possible that that's not the right price and the market doesn't respond well to it. So there's a couple barometers that I'm really going to be like looking at to know if we nailed the price. And those 2 barometers are, of course, the showings per week, and then how long does it take to sell the average home in this market. So like, if we just do some really simple math, like, you don't have to be a math genius to figure this out. If it takes 30 days, approximately 4 weeks, give or take, to sell a home in that market, and the average showings is 12, then you need about what?
4 showings a week, 3 showings
a week,
mm-hmm.
right? So I know if I'm getting 0 or 1, we have a pricing problem, and I'm kind of ahead of it. I'm not waiting for the days on market to be matched by my listing. Mm-hmm. I'm saying like, hey, like we should have had 3 this week based on this data. We had 1. We need to see if this is just a weird week. Usually I won't do anything for the next week, but if I get a back-to-back week of really low showings or no showings, that's when the price conversation will start to come up, right?
Exactly.
Because we obviously have a problem in some way. So
exactly.
Those are the barometers I recommend watching and explaining to your client to confirm you've got the price right.
Yes. And another way to look at that data is also to say, okay, if I know that in your particular market area, in that zip code, on average, it takes, 12, just say, we'll go round numbers, 12 showings to sell this home. And then we're getting 2 showings a week. Okay, then we can again, deduced by math, it may take at least 6 weeks to sell. And if we then cross that average days on market, and then we also cross the average showings to sell, then we know for sure that it is price at that point. But obviously, like Mike said, we want to try to get ahead of it. So if we're not tracking for the average days on market with the average showings, then we likely have a pricing issue.
Right. And the average showings to offer is also important because, you can get these listings. I've got one right now where we've had like 42 showings. The average is 10.
Yeah.
Right. But the reason why it's actually not price. It's because the home is like in the middle of nowhere and people don't think it's as far out as it is. So by the time they go out there, they're like, oh my God, this is way too far.
Yeah. You can only send
find that right buyer that's okay with it. Right.
Yeah.
But we're at 42 showings. The average is like 10, 11.
Yeah.
So like that kind of tells a story to the seller if you've explained what that data means.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly.
the last one, of course, is the system to know when to have the price conversation and reduce it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do this, Rach? This is one that you've done a lot.
Yeah, we sure do. So, along with looking at the average showings that I'd like to see per week, as well as average days on market, we're tracking those in real time, of course. But at the end of the day, if I see other homes going under contract that are priced lower, if I see other homes going under contract that are priced similarly or they have better features, there's a lot of factors that come into play when it comes to price adjustments. But how we start this conversation, especially in a shifting market, is if we are not getting the showings, we're getting the showings and we're getting no interest whatsoever. We need to have a really hard conversation simply about the fact that the market is shifting. And in this kind of case, we could do one of two things. Number one, we could wait it out. We could not touch the price and we could just wait for the right buyer to come on. But what we risk is now going stale, right? And creating a perception of shelf life for that listing, which the longer it stays on the market, the more people think, oh, what's wrong with it? And therefore your price is going to continue to go down and down and down. And the other thing that we can do, especially if they are wanting to sell, if they're motivated to sell, if they need to sell, whether they're purchasing another property or they're moving out of state or whatever, the next option, of course, is we need to go find the market value right now, because obviously what we are priced at is not in alignment with what the market is saying that we are what it's worth. So we are going to price reduce relatively aggressively for a couple weeks in a row until we find what that looks like. And I've had sellers say, "No, I want to wait it out." Okay, so we go past the average days on market, we go past the average showings, and now what I always hate to see, but always will say is, I don't want to see you take less later, because now we're chasing the market down as opposed to proactively finding where the market is, which likely will save and retain a little bit more equity.
At what point would you say, hey, it's, because we're making this podcast, we're shooting this in October. At what point would you say hey, this listing has been on the market for 4 or 5 months. It's kind of a dead listing at this point. Let's pull it off. Let's reset the clock. Let's come back on in January.
Yeah, good question. I've done that a couple of times over the years, and I think once we get into the second week of November, and if it's been on the market for 4, 5, 6 months, that's about when I would probably pull it. Or actually probably this first week of November, because in our MLS, in our market, you have to be off market for 60 days in order for the days on market on the listing to reset. So that's about when I'd do that, would be probably right after Halloween. Pull it for the holiday season and then list it the first week of January, right as that 60-day mark resets.
And then if you're going to keep it on the market, but you need to reduce the price, do you wait tactically until the right... let's just say it's the first week in December, you've got the listing on the market, they don't want to take it off. You need to move price. Do you move it then, or do you wait till the market's going to come back with in January, for instance?
It's totally going to depend on the seller and their personal, every listing is customized based on, of course, their needs. But most likely I would wait and then we would price reduce after the first of the year.
Yeah.
Just
Same. I usually
depends.
try to time my price reductions to eliminate any kind of seasonality dynamic. For instance, I usually won't do a price reduction the week before Labor Day.
Yeah.
I'll wait until people are back in school.
Yep.
And then I'll time it for like a week after that.
Exactly.
So just kind of being like strategic about that.
Well, and another thing to think about too, especially as we enter Q4 and we're going towards the end of the year, December 31st is the biggest listing expiration day of the entire year. For whatever reason,
I don't get why listing agents leave listings to the end of the year.
I don't know either. We have a minimum, that we do. It's a fiscal year for our listings. But for whatever reason, 12/31 is like the biggest listing expiration day. So if you can list, 5 to 7 days after that into January, you're hitting a market where the inventory is actually quite low at that point.
Right.
And so that's been historically speaking, like I had a listing this last year, the end of 2024. We did a big cosmetic remodel on it, and the sellers were quite antsy to get it on the market, and their friends and professionals and business owners. And I said, hey guys, please trust me on this. Like, we were done with the remodel at the beginning of December. They wanted to list it right away and sell it. I said, please trust me on this. We waited until the second week in January, listed it, and it sold almost immediately within a week. So
yeah, timing does matter. And the market does, like every market has different seasonality components to it, but
right.
ours definitely is quiet, like once you get into the Thanksgiving time zone, and not much really happens until the second to third week in January.
Yeah, I mean, we've literally, people on our team and we both have sold homes on Thanksgiving Day, on Christmas Day, like on New Year's Day, it's happened. But
if you look at the sales data in our market,
yes.
you can go look at, like, you can graph it out and say, like, where's the point of highest sale price for the year? It's always the end of January through April.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
People think it's April and May, and
we're
it's
talking
not.
like a $40,000 to $60,000 difference on an average home price in
right.
the area. So
right.
the seasonality is really actually a pretty big component
exactly.
to like the strategy here.
If it makes sense for you, right?
Right.
Like,
if timing is something that is not pressing for you,
yeah.
then it's a dynamic that you should be considering.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay. All right. Awesome. Well, hopefully that is super helpful for people. If you want to connect with us, you can do so on meetthenovaks.com. We're at Real Brokerage. We sponsor and mentor agents coming to Real across the whole country and Canada as well. You can reach out to us about that on Instagram. I'm at The Real Mike Novak.
And I am at Rachael Novak with an A.
We'll see you next week.
See you then. That's a wrap on today's episode of Growth Drivers.
If you found value in this conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with a fellow entrepreneur.
For more insights, tools, and resources, visit us at thewarrioragent.com.
Keep pushing forward, keep leading with purpose, and we'll see you next time.